So we're going to try to finish up this book of Hebrews, chapter 11. I think we finished, we kind of got to like the 17th chapter, 16th, 17th verse, I should say. And so we're going to try to just do a quick little scan and pick up right there and see how far we get, see if we can finish this all out today. So let's just do a review of the chapter. Let's take a listen.
Chapter 11. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For by it the elders obtained a good report. Through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. By faith Abel offered unto God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, by which he obtained witness that he was righteous, God testifying of his gifts, and by it he being dead yet speaketh. By faith Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found, because God had translated him. For before his translation he had this testimony, that he pleased God. But without faith it is impossible to please him, for he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. By faith Noah, being warned of God of things not seen as yet, moved with fear, prepared an ark to the saving of his house, by the which he condemned the world, and became heir of the righteousness which is by faith. By faith Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed, and he went out, not knowing whither he went. By faith he sojourned in the land of promise, as in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. For he looked for a city which hath foundations, whose builder and maker is God. Through faith also Sarah herself received strength to conceive seed, and was delivered of a child when she was past age, because she judged him faithful who had promised. Therefore sprang there even of one, and him as good as dead, so many as the stars of the sky in multitude, and as the sand which is by the seashore innumerable. These all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, and were persuaded of them, and embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. For they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country. And truly, if they had been mindful of that country from whence they came out, they might have had opportunity to have returned. But now they desire a better country, that is, an heavenly. Wherefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he hath prepared for them a city. By faith Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac, and he that had received the promises offered up his only begotten son, of whom it was said, that in Isaac shall thy seed be called, accounting that God was able to raise him up, even from the dead, from whence also he received him in a figure. By faith Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning things to come. By faith Jacob, when he was a-dying, blessed both the sons of Joseph, and worshipped leaning upon the top of his staff. By faith Joseph, when he died, made mention of the departing of the children of Israel, and gave commandment concerning his bones. By faith Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents, because they saw he was a proper child, and they were not afraid of the king's commandment. By faith Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured, as seeing him who is invisible. Through faith he kept the Passover, and the sprinkling of blood, lest he that destroyed the firstborn should touch them. By faith they passed through the Red Sea as by dry land, which the Egyptians essaying to do were drowned. By faith the walls of Jericho fell down, after they were compassed about 7 days. By faith the harlot Rahab perished not with them that believed not, when she had received the spies with peace. And what shall I more say? For the time would fail me to tell of Gideon, and of Barak, and of Samson, and of Jephthah, of David also, and Samuel, and of the prophets, who through faith subdued kingdoms, wrought righteousness, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the violence of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, out of weakness were made strong, waxed valiant in fight, turned to flight the armies of the aliens. Women received their dead raised to life again, and others were tortured, not accepting deliverance, that they might obtain a better resurrection. And others had trial of cruel mockings and scourgings, yea, moreover, of bonds and imprisonment. They were stoned, they were sawn asunder, were tempted, were slain with a sword. They wandered about in sheepskins and goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, tormented, of whom the world was not worthy. They wandered in deserts and in mountains, and in dens and caves of the earth. These all, having obtained a good report through faith, received not the promise, God having provided some better thing for us, that they without us should not be made perfect.
All right. Once again, chapter 11. And every time you read that, you're looking at and you go, wow, this chapter is talking about everything that was done by what? By faith. And you can understand why the scripture tells us that without faith, it is impossible to please God. We talked about that on last week. And so just kind of reviewing before we pick up where we left off at, we saw how we looked at this aspect of faith. Just to elaborate a little bit more on that, because we kind of went past that definition, because we know what it means from our perspective, but we know that in society they have a lot of different definitions for faith. Some people tell you that if you have the proper faith in God, you should never be sick, you should never have any problems, and that's erroneous. That's not the kind of faith that we're talking about here. And we're going to see that in a little bit here, because we're reading through this, and we're seeing that all the individuals that we've gone through so far went through trials, but their trials were all delivered from a standpoint of how this world sees it as a overcoming. But there were some that from this world's perspective were not overcome. They were so-called put to death or tortured, and we'll see that today. But they are still in the same category of those that were so-called delivered. The reality of it is that if you know the Lord, you are already delivered. And so that's what faith is. My faith is in God, that I'm already delivered. Regardless, and we'll talk about this in a minute when we get to the Hebrew boys, because they told the king, I'm not bowing. Now, I know my God is able to deliver me from the fire, but whether he delivers me or not, I'm not going to bow, because my deliverance is not primarily being delivered from this fiery furnace. My deliverance is being delivered from the sin that produces eternal damnation. So we are already delivered. But oftentimes people will try to tell us that the main deliverance is a natural or a deliverance of this world, which is okay, and we all seek it. We want to be in good health. We want to have our bills paid. We want to all that kind of stuff. But that ain't the main thing. That's not part of the main vein of what God's doing. The main focus of what God is doing, he's delivering us eternally. And that has already been done. Jesus said, it is what? Finished. It's done. So all these other ones are just shadows and allegories of what God does for us on a daily basis. And we see it, but our main deliverance has happened to us already the moment we accepted Jesus as our Lord and our Savior. All right? So that's our faith. I'm already delivered. I'm already part of what God is doing, regardless as to what happens to me in this world, good or bad, so to speak. All right? And we're going to deal with that in a little bit more. But I think it's important that we understand that aspect of what faith is. My faith is in God regardless. The circumstances of this world doesn't change how I see God. And this world tries to get you to not focus on faith, but focus on what they consider to be, well, let's look at the natural evidence. And then they try to say, well, look at evolution and look at all that. And evolution is the biggest lie. That was the first lie that was ever told. Because that's what the devil told Eve. Told Eve that she was going to evolve. If you eat of this, your eyes will be open, and you will what? Become as God. You will evolve. You will. So the very first lie that's ever told was the lie of evolution. You're going to go from where you are now to evolve up to where God is. And they still tell them that same lie, that this is how man goes. No, we were already made in the what? Image of God. So it's important that we recognize that we focus on true faith, faith in God, that God has a great eternal status for us, and we just got to trust it and believe it, and don't try to allow someone to try to replace your faith with something else. Don't replace it with science. Don't replace it with all these other circumstances. Well, they producing evidence. They're digging up bones, and they're getting old artifacts, and they're pulling up scientific experiments, and they're doing nuclear physics, and they're doing quantum physics, and that's showing. No, what's your evidence? Faith. That's the evidence you need to hang on to. You know, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And you hang on to that. This world's going to try to substitute faith in God with a whole lot of other things you should believe in. And we got to make sure that we don't allow that to happen. And this world is very good at it. They're very good at it, and they're persuasive. And it's funny because a lot of times when you get a lot of people telling you the same thing over and over and over again, it can almost seem like you should do it. You know, like they did that psychological experiment where they put a math question up that was an obvious answer. I don't know what the question was, but it was something like, what's 2 plus 2? And everybody knows 2 plus 2 is 4. But for the sake of it, to say that was it. And they had everybody else in the class say that it was 3 or 5 or whatever the case was. And you got 40 people in there, and everybody's agreeing to the wrong answer. And they finally got the one person that wasn't part of it to agree with everybody else. Just to what? Just not to be different. Just to kind of, and that's why you got to stick on, because this world is trying to make anyone that will believe in God to look as a weirdo and stick out like a what? Sore thumb. So we have to make sure that we don't allow that. All that is part of hanging on and holding on to your what? Your faith in God. All right? And remember that verse 6 told us that without faith, it is what? Impossible to please God. If you don't have faith, you try to come to God through wisdom, knowledge, science, through architecture, through archaeology, through chemistry or alchemy or anything, you can't get to God that way. You got to get to God through what? Faith. Yeah, I know. Believe it or not, that's coming back. People are believing in that again. Noah we talked about, and Abel and Enoch and Abraham, and how all their activities were activities of faith, believing in God. All right. So and we see that even where Abraham was told he was going to be the father of faith, and all those that come after him will be a number that what? No man could number. All right. And it's important that we see. And then he was told also that in the 13th verse it says, all these died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them what? Afar off. All right. And so how did they receive them? They received them by faith. Faith is the evidence. Faith is the substance of things hoped for. They were hoping for that. They were believing it. And the evidence of things not seen. And it says here, all these died in faith, not having received or not having seen the promise. They didn't see Jesus yet. But having seen them what? Afar off. Okay? I can see it in distance through faith. That's how I see Jesus. And so they look back, they look forward to the coming of the Messiah. Just like we are looking what? We're looking back. I believe it happened. I believe he did it. All right? All right? And so it's important that we understand that. All right? And then it went on and it said, and were persuaded of them and embraced them and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth, which is a very important aspect, because once you recognize that you are a stranger here, this is not my home, that I do have a home. I have a place that God has prepared for me. God has prepared a place for me and that's where I'm going to be. That's my real reality. Then you can look at this as being, well, I'm passing through. And it seems like, wow, I'm here. It's like I'm going to be here. But all you got to do is look at history. All right? Where's everybody that was ever on this planet? Everybody that was on this planet 200 years ago, where are they? They're gone. The whole planet. I don't think there's anybody 200 years old. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. George Washington, gone. Ben Franklin, gone. Right? Napoleon, right? So guess what that shows you? You ain't here to stay. Right? And every time you go to a funeral, every time you hear about somebody dying, that's evidence that this ain't your home. Because see, a home is where you're going to stay. You're going to be there forever. And that's the home. That's your home. Evidence is all around us that this ain't your home. But guess what? It ain't nobody else's home either. This is not your permanent residence, and it's shown to us every day. You look at the paper, go to the obituaries, and look at people. They pass on all the time because this is not where you're staying. So you are a stranger and a pilgrim on the earth. All right, and so and it said in 14, for they that said such things declared plainly that they seek a what? A country. All right? So we're seeking another homeland. And our homeland is eternity with Christ. The heavenly place that God said he has prepared for us. All right? And so we got down to the 15th, and it says, and truly if they had been mindful of that country from which they came out of, they may have had opportunity to have returned. But now they declare, now they desire a what? Better country. Okay. So once again, not only are we not citizens of this country, but those that believe in Christ are citizens of a what? A better country. A better home. All right. That's where we're citizens of. All right. That is a heavenly. There it is right there. A better country. Why is it better? Because it's heavenly. And heaven is eternal. It's for existence for us throughout the ages. Wherefore God is not ashamed to be called their God. For he hath prepared for them a what? A city. Who prepared it?
God.
God did it. All right. That's right. The builder and the maker is who? God. All right, and that's where we're going. But how do you know you're going there? I know by faith.
By faith.
But have you seen it? No.
No.
But I believe it by what? By faith. All right, and so that is why we hold on to that. All right. God has prepared for me a country, a city. I have a wonderful, wonderful homeland. Well, tell me about it. Well, all I can tell you is what the Bible says. The Bible, when you look at the book of Revelation, it talks about that city that comes down, and so we can look at it and we can kind of envision it. But even with that, it's still not even comparison because we're giving it a three-dimensional point of view. When that city, I think, is multi-dimensional. How many dimensions? I have no idea. But I know one thing. That dimension of the arrow of time that keeps going in one direction, that's going to be done away with because there will be no more time. There will be no more you getting old. There will be no more tomorrow or wait till this. And when you say that, it sounds kind of strange. But that's another reason why it starts off by saying now faith. What is now? Now is a continuous what? Present. And so living in a continuous present is sometimes hard to comprehend. And even when you say it, you can't really envision how that works. But it does, and even some of the so-called mathematicians say, yeah, well, eternity should exist, but we don't understand how it come and doesn't. And time, we should be able to go back in time and stop time and go left of time and sideways of time, but I don't know why we can't do it. So even from a mathematical standpoint, they say we should be able to do that, but yeah, we should, and because God built it in, but God is the one that controls it. He has the master key. And I keep talking like that, and before I know it, I get tongue-tied and brain-twisted because it gets to be a little bit deep. You start talking about how our eternity is going to be. All right? 17. By faith, Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac. All right? So he was told to offer up his what? His son. Offered up Isaac. And he that had received the promise offered up his what? Only begotten son. Now, Isaac was Abraham's, according to what God describes here and in other places, Isaac was Abraham's only begotten son. Now, from a natural standpoint, was that Abraham's only son? Because he had another son called who? Ishmael. Ishmael. But you see what God is doing here in this book? He's showing us how he sees his people by faith. You know what the Lord says? He said, what did he say he's going to do with our sins?
Throw them in the sea of forgiveness.
Throw them in he said, I will remember them what? No more. So when you read this, we're going to come across some people that have some flaws, that have some issues. But when they are mentioned here in God's roll call, they only talked about talking about their faith. I was only concerned with their faith. I'm not concerned with their mistakes. Why are you not concerned with their mistakes? Because Jesus died for them. So I'm not worried about their mistakes and their failures. And so we get a little glimpse here of how God sees us. And it's like, yeah, I know you got issues, you got problems, and I know God was not oblivious to Ishmael, but he's like, that ain't what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with the son that you're going to receive by faith in me. And that son, the only son that I'm recognizing and calling out in this roll call is who? It's Isaac. His only begotten son. 18. Of whom it was said that Isaac shall be thy what? Seed to be called. According that God was able to raise up even from the dead. Because what did God tell Abraham to do with Isaac? To offer him up, to sacrifice him. And so Abraham believed that it was going to happen. Even when God gave me the commandment, Abraham just believed that God would have to bring him from the dead. Because I believe God said that I'm going to have innumerable descendants from Isaac. And so only way I can think about it is he must going to be raising him from the dead. And he couldn't figure it out. He didn't know how it was going to work out. But he still believed by faith. So he went ahead and did it. He says, well, I'm about to watch somebody get resurrected here. But then Isaac is a perfect type, because even though Abraham did not have to sacrifice his son, in Abraham's mind, he already had Isaac as what? As being dead. If he walked that 3-day journey in his mind, knowing that his son's already dead. And it's a good type, because how many days was Jesus in the grave? 3 days. 3 days and nights. So it's a beautiful type and shadow, which we could get into, but I'm going to try to move along here. 19. According to God was able to raise him up even from the dead, for whence also he received him in a figure. All right. 20. By faith Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning things to come. All right. So now Isaac is blessing, and you notice the name. What name is first? Jacob, because who got the birthright blessing? It was who? Jacob. All right. But who was the oldest? Esau. Esau was supposed to get it, but it came to Jacob. All right. So Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning things to come. 20. By faith, Jacob, when he was dying, blessed both the sons of Joseph. And when he blessed both the sons of Joseph, remember, he also put his right hand on the what? On the younger son. Remember, he crossed the hands. Mm-hmm. And Joseph was trying to tell him that you put your hands on your right hand on the younger son. You should have put it on the older. But Jacob says, I know what I'm doing. He goes, this is how God is working it. All right. So the second son, once again, got the blessing, the inheritance, the birthright. Mm-hmm. 21. By faith, Jacob, when he was dying, blessed both the sons of Joseph and worshiped leaning upon the top of his staff. By faith, Joseph, when he was dying, made mention of the departing of the children of Israel and gave commandments concerning his bones. So Joseph, as he was dying, recognized we're going to be here for a while, but we are leaving. And when you do leave, take my bones with you. I'm not going to see you leave, but I believe you leave. I believe that you're going to leave this place. And I believe it so much that I want you to do this. When you do leave, take my bones with you. Because y'all getting out of here. Y'all going to be here for a while, but you're not going to be here forever. You're going to be leaving. And when you do go, I want you to take my bones. And so once again, he's seeing that afar off. He's seeing that as something that is to come, which is another aspect of how faith works. It is things that are not right here, but things we can actually see afar off and believe in and have evidence of by what we can see spiritually, not always naturally. 23. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents. All right. So remember, they had the edict that when a son was born, Pharaoh was so afraid of the multitude of the Israelites that were being born. He said, when the son is born, do what? I want you to kill it. Throw it in the Nile. Because they saw he was a proper child, and they were not afraid of the king's commandment. All right, seeing something that God had on this child, and then also not being afraid of the king's commandment, which is very important for where we're going, because our society is going to put commandments out there for us. They already gotten stuff out there. They don't want you anywhere in this Bible where the Bible talks about homosexuality as a sin. They're already telling you, we don't think you should be saying that. But they're going to label that a what? A hate crime. But then the Bible talks about all things that are sin. Fornication is a sin. Adultery is a sin. Lying is a sin. Stealing is a sin. They're all sins. So the Bible's saying all this stuff is sin. But they're trying to find something that they can hit you with so they can actually pinpoint you. And kind of, next thing you know, they're going to be labeling Christians as what? Terrorists and hate crime individuals. So we got to be aware of that and be prepared. But the key is here that Moses' parents were not afraid. They said they were not afraid of the king's commandment. And we can't have fear. My faith is in Jesus. My faith is in what the Lord is telling them. And regardless as to what they try to tell us and how they try to pin us in a corner and narrow you down. So, okay, now if you say this or if you do this or if you talk about this, we're going to label you this. You put whatever label you want on me, man. That don't matter. All right, so it's important that we recognize it. In our society, it's little by little, and if you watch it, you see it coming, it's happening, and it's going there. But we got to make sure that our faith stays strong in the Lord. Look at 24. By faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. Right? Because Pharaoh's daughter was the one that raised him, and he recognized, he goes, you know what? I see that you raised me. You gave me all these different opportunities. I'm in the midst of a lot of wealth and pomp and different wonderful things. Mm-hmm. But that is not what I see as what's important. I don't agree with what you're doing. And that took strength. So he was basically saying, I really don't want all this so-called wealth that you have here. I want to know what? Truth. And I want to know who God is. And so look what he says. He says, choosing rather, 25, choosing rather to suffer the afflictions with the people of God. I'd rather be with God's people than to be with Pharaoh's wealth and power organization. All right? So it just goes to show you. Sometimes people say, well, if he had been raised, if he wasn't raised by such heathenist people, he would have turned out better. It has to do with you as an individual. You could be raised by wonderful parents, but if your heart is wrong, You ain't gonna turn out right. You can have the greatest teaching, and if your heart ain't right, it ain't gonna turn right. How do you know that? Look at Judas. 3.5 years straight from Jesus. You cannot get any better teacher than Jesus. And what did Judas do? I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do it the way I see it. I don't like the way he's trying to go about it. I'm going to go about it my way. It's the same thing. Go all the way back to the beginning. It's the same thing very first. When Adam and Eve sinned, they tried to fix it what? Their way. And God said, that ain't how you do it. When God told Cain and Abel to bring an offering, Abel brought it the way God said it was supposed to be bring. Cain said, I'm going to give God what I want to give him. And it don't work that way. You got to do it the way the Lord has told us to do it. And so Moses, he refused. He goes, I'd rather suffer with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a what?
A season.
He recognized, this ain't my home. I ain't going to be here. I may have a good time, but the good time's only for what?
A season.
For a little while. And that's what you got to keep in mind. You see all these people that they stealing people money, they robbing folks legally, so-called legally, taking people. You know, we put the highest interest on the poorest people. You know, we got, and I can go down that, I can get on that soapbox about all the stuff we do to poor folk. You know, and how they squeeze all they can, and then the rich just try to take everything. They just want everything. I want it all. Let's take all the money. You know, I can barely pay their bills, and I'm gonna hit you with 35% interest. All right, and it's like, don't you see that as evil? To me, that is evil. I know you can barely, and then they sit there all day with those commercials. You struggling to pay your bills? Call me up. We'll give you $2,000, and then charge them 40% interest. That's stealing from poor people, taking advantage of them because they try not to get evicted. And then
But they used to call that usury, right?
Yeah. Well,
anything was over 25%.
It used to be called loan sharking.
Right.
The mob used to do that. That used to be. Yeah, but
Say that again.
They
Say that again, sir.
I said our whole system of capitalism is usury.
But they put a nice word to it and make it legal. Because see, a lot of stuff that we do now used to be illegal when I was growing up. Lotto was only run by the mob and the underclass, you know, the underworld, you know, little crooks, little bookies here or there. They run the numbers, and that was illegal. If you got caught running numbers, you went to jail. And so the government said, you know what? But see, that's how you know there's a change. All the stuff is changing. All the stuff that we know is wrong. The Bible, gambling, wrong. And so then they said, you know what? They opened up Las Vegas and they saw how much money they made. And they said, we're going to do Atlantic City. And now you go up to Yonkers. They got big gambling up in Yonkers. And now you got gambling online and all this. But the Bible says this is not something we should be doing. And the Bible talks to us about charging usury or interest to the poor. The Bible says that's wrong. All those things that we know were wrong in our society, we then say, you know what? It's right. We give it a different name. This ain't gambling. It's not numbers. It's the lottery. All you need is $1 and a dream. No, but you see how they change it up, and they little by little change all of it. And some things they don't really announce that they changed it, but they just kind of change it without announcing it. The gambling and the numbers and 30 and 40% interest, they just announce it's a different thing, different day. We're giving people opportunities. No, you're not. You're stealing from them. But other things, they do it they just do it a little bit in front of you. Like how people now there is no real crime, or it just doesn't seem bad when people shack up or just get together and just living in adultery or fornication. It don't seem like it's no big deal anymore. That's just how it is. But our society hasn't actually said this is legal, although they have, right? And they call it what? Common law. But the Bible has always said it was wrong. Right? Now, the one thing they won't let you do still They won't let you go and steal, but they steal from us. Don't get me. I'm on that. I'm on the bandwagon. Let me jump off the bandwagon, because they come in and it's like you spend all your money on your house. You buy your house. You will pay your house off. Paid off. I don't have no more mortgage. Have a bad year and don't be able to pay your taxes. Guess what they're going to do to your house?
Put a lien.
And eventually they will what? They will take it. But that's your house.
Was your house.
Exactly. They will take it from you. They put laws in so that if they really want to, come take your house. I'll raise your taxes so high you can't afford it, and I'll take it, even though you paid it off already. It's little stuff like that they do, just so they can. But that's why you have to have a mindset. This ain't my home. I ain't trying to hold on to nothing. Even as you're trying to do what you got to do every day, you still got to have a mindset. I'm not going to let them pull me into this. That I got security in this world. My security is in who? Jesus Christ. And if your security is not in Jesus Christ, then you can be shaken. If you don't build your house on a firm foundation, when the winds come, when the storms blow, all these difficult things that this world puts together, when that stuff happens, your faith can get shaken. So your faith has to be in Jesus. They can take what they want. All right? They can bombard the air with all kinds of chemicals and put all kinds of stuff in our food, and my health can deteriorate, but my faith is still in what? Jesus. You can do all kinds of taxes and insurance and all kinds of stuff, but and where I can't even afford to live and but my faith is still in what? In Jesus. So, and I paint with a broad brush on some of the extremes of what's happening. That don't happen to everybody, but it happens to some people. Happens to some people every year. They go through that. All right? But the thing is, it's happening to more and more and more people. And that's the sad part. All right? Look at 26. Esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures of Egypt. See, he had what Pharaoh had. It would have been his. But I esteem the approach of being named after Christ. And yet Jesus had not yet what? Come. So he's seeing it what? Afar off. I consider that greater riches. So if our trust is in God, it's greater than the riches of Egypt or the riches of this world. For he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. I know my greatest treasure is not here. Even though Egypt has a lot of treasure. Egypt was very wealthy at the time. And they had treasure, but Moses was able to see that ain't the real treasure. And that's a gift. God blesses you to see that, and you can be aware of that the stuff that people tell you should have in this world is not the real treasure, that knowing Jesus is the ultimate treasure. It will satisfy a lot of other things, a lot of other yearnings and pressures and things that you feel you gotta have, gotta do, gotta be, gotta achieve, can be tempered. Not to say that you don't still try to do well, but it's tempered, it's balanced. That, hey, my nothing that I do, I'm already a winner because I'm standing with the things of God, standing with Jesus. All right. 27. By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king. All right. I'm gonna turn my back on the riches, knowing that once I turn my back on them, then I'm gonna produce a enemy, a visible enemy now. Because I'm taking a stand, and so I'm gonna have the wrath of the king. For he endured as seeing him who is what? Invisible. Faith is the evidence of things what? Hoped for. Evidence of things not seen. Exactly. So not seen or what? Invisible. I endure as seeing him who is what? Invisible. And in Moses' case, he hadn't come yet, but I know he's coming. 28. How much time we got? Okay. Through faith, he kept the what? Passover and the sprinkling of blood. All right. So once again, that's a trust, knowing that disaster is coming, but it won't hit me. lest he that destroyed the firstborn should touch them. Right? The firstborn were only destroyed on those who didn't have the faith to sprinkle their door with the blood. And if you sprinkled your door with the blood, then the death angel pass over you. And it didn't matter whether you were an Israelite or an Egyptian. As long if you had the faith, that's all you needed. 29. By faith they passed through the what? The Red Sea, as by dry land. Not soggy mud, not wet dirt, dry land. Understand that. Sometimes it's hard to, people look, well, they walked through a very low period when the tide was low. No, they went over dry land. All right? It wasn't wet mud. Which the Egyptians are saying to do were what? Drown. And that's another thing. So if they went through a marshy land that had, an inch of water, how did the Egyptians drown then? You see, but they try to explain it through science, through archaeology, through all these other different things, and that ain't what the scripture says. And if you take one away, well, there was a marshy, ground during that period of time, the water levels were low. Okay, fine. How did the armies of the Egyptians drown then? They just put their head in the mud and sucked in the mud and drowned? How did they drown? You see, so when you take away one, you got answer than the other. No, God separated the water, had a wall of water. And then he had a wall of water on the right, a wall of water on the left, and dry ground under your feet. And then when he was done, he let it come back. That's the way the Bible describes it. And it fits, because that's how you can get dry ground and drown people. All right? By faith, the walls of Jericho fell down. These were the walls that man built and said nobody can knock these walls down. And we do that a lot. Remember, what was the other thing that unsinkable ship, Titanic. Even God can't sink this ship. That's what they said. God himself cannot sink this ship. All right? And I think it was just so ironic when they said that. They think so many wonderful things about it, and it got sunk not by a torpedo, not by a bullet, by something God allows to make happen in nature, an iceberg. That's what sunk the ship. But then, before they launched it, this ship is unsinkable. God himself can't sink it. I tell you, and that's recent history. All right, but the walls of Jericho can't fall down, fell down after they were compassed about for 7 days. And God told them what to do. Just walk around the walls for 7 days, and and I'm sure they're like, well, how does walking around here go? Don't worry about how. And that's the thing. See, if you're trying to understand the how, don't try to replace faith with how. Just have faith. Don't worry about the how. And that's something that you have to learn. I know I had to learn that. I'm like, well, how did that happen? How can that be? How can you? You know what? I ain't twisting my brain up in a knot trying to understand how God does his stuff. Because if I can understand how God does everything, it makes me what?
Equal.
It makes me equal to God. I know just as much as him. Never going to happen. So therefore, I got to do what? Trust him. Just have faith. All right, so by faith the walls of Jericho fell down after they were compassed about 7 days. By faith the harlot Rahab perished not. She was the one in the wall of Jericho, because they had the houses of prostitution. That was the first place you could go to, and people come in. That's where the money kind of started flowing into the city and town. But it don't tell you anything other than the fact that she was a harlot. But she was also what? She did not perish. So how does God look at her? As someone that perished not. But I thought that fornication and adultery was a sin. It is a sin. But if you accept Jesus, guess what happens to all your sin? It's gone. So therefore, it's stating she was a harlot, but she did not what? Perish. And that don't mean just naturally. It also means what? Eternally. Because guess who became part of the lineage and in the family line of King David? This Rahab was David's great grandmother. But then that also makes Rahab in the lineage of who? Jesus. A descendant of Rahab was our Messiah. All right? On this unbelievable aspect. So you can see, though your sins be red as crimson, they shall be what? White as snow. She perished not with them that believed not. All right? And those that were around her, all these nice so-called good business people that were running the town of Jericho, they all what? Died. Because why? They did not believe. When she had received the spies with peace. 32. And what shall I say more? What shall I more say? For the time would fail me. All right, and yes, the time is about to fail me. For the time would fail me to tell of Gideon, who was able to fight with just a few people. He had an army, and God says, no, dwindle his army down. All right, and he gave him little tests to have them do, and and then when each one that did this or did that, they failed the test, send them home, and I'll let you get the victory with just a few people. Barak and Samson. Samson was a rascal, but you don't mention it here. Samson have what? He's in the roll call of faith, the Hall of Fame of faith.
He said he bought the house then. That was a joke.
Yeah, he did. And but he had issues, right? And Jephthah, David. Did David have some issues?
Yeah.
He sure did. But David also had what? Faith. Samuel, and of the prophets, who through faith subdued kingdoms. All right. So through faith, they were able to stand in the midst of the kings and the kingdoms and the armies. Wrought righteousness, obtained the promises, stopped the mouths of lions. Remember Daniel in the lion's den? All right. Remember Samson when he had to fight a lion, he was able to rip the lion's mouth, kill a lion that way. Stop the mouths of lion. 34. Quenched the violence of fire. Remember the Hebrew boys? All right. So you know what? I'm going in there, king. I'm not bowing to you. And that's what our society wants us to do. It wants us to bow to these ways today. I want you to agree to this. You got to agree to this. You ain't going to talk about this. You ain't going to say this. And you got to agree that this is wrong. And you can't talk and say these things about people. No, I'm going to tell you what's wrong. The stuff you're doing to the poor people, that's wrong. Stuff you're doing to our young people, lying to them, that's wrong. And we got to get away from that. One of the things that it's kind of amazing to me how you take you have a birthday party for somebody, right? And you go there, and the birthday party is on Saturday, and you're getting prepared, and people come by, and you put all the gifts around. The party's getting ready to happen, and before the time actually happens, the person whose birthday, they go in there and just open all the gifts before all the guests arrive and everything. Now open all the gifts up. Now, should that person have done that?
No.
And what does that do to the celebration? It kills it. It's just no, because now you didn't allow the opening of the gifts at the right time to be celebrated properly. Now it's nothing now. It don't mean anything anymore. You still have the gift. It's still there. You still can use the gift, but the event was what? Spoiled. Well, that's what our society has done with our young people. It has spoiled the gift of God. God has given a husband and a wife the gift of what? Intimacy. And society said, don't wait for God's planned time of celebration. Open the gift up whenever you want to. And just destroyed the whole party. The whole celebration is just gone. Because our kids are being told in TVs and movies, and open the gift up whenever you want to. It don't matter. and it's wrong.
And it's not only that, he could open the gift up with him and him, and her and her.
You know, well, that ain't the gift. That
That ain't the gift
that,
either, but
that ain't the gift. God,
trying
the
to
gift
give
that God gave was husband and wife
Right.
intimacy. God didn't give no him and him gift. That's
what they're trying to put
that's what
that.
the devil gave that one, and we don't want to open his gifts. But you see the point I'm making, right? God said it's a wonderful thing, and it should happen, but it should happen at this time. You get the gift, you get the Christmas gift, you get the birthday gift, and you should open it. It was wrapped to be opened, but you got to open it at the what? At the right time. But all of that is part of, like with the Hebrew boys, when it says here, 34, quench the violence of fire. When the Hebrew boys were threatened to be thrown into the fire, society said, we are all going to, when we hear the music, we all going to bow down and worship. And the Hebrew boys said, I'm not doing it. I'm not going. I'm going to take a stand, even though the whole kingdom is doing it. Those three boys were the only ones against the whole nation. Everybody else is doing it. I'm not doing it. All right, and it's important to recognize that. All right, so they were able to quench the violence of fire, and it's speaking about the Hebrew boys here. Escape the edge of the sword. Out of the weakness were made strong. Wax valiant and fight. Turned to flight and amazed the aliens. And so women who received their dead raised again. And so you see he's saying, I can go on and on and on and on about what people were able to do by having their faith in who? In God. All right? We could talk a lot about the women of the Old Testament whose children died, and God sent the prophet to raise them, and then even Jesus himself raised the children of the mothers from the dead. All right, and others were tortured, not accepting the deliverance. You see this? There was those that were what? That were tortured. So some of them didn't get the deliverance. So let's talk about those now. They that might obtain a better resurrection. They did not accept the deliverance. And I underline that because look at how that reads. I'm just going to read this again because it gives a subtle hint that maybe they had. Did they have an option? Did God speak to their spirit while they were going through this torture and ask them, which one do you want? Remember Paul said, bless you, I'm caught between two opinions, whether to be here, which is needful, or to go be with Christ, which is far better. And he said, for me to live is Christ, but to die is what? Gain. So look at this. It says, the women receiving their dead raised to life again, and others were tortured. And look at this, not accepting deliverance. I find that interesting. Did they actually, in the midst of their torture, were they visited by God, just like the Hebrew boys were? You want to stay, or you ready to go home?
Same with that as like deliverance, worldly deliverance. I'll stop the torture if you do what I said. They didn't accept that. You know, like the Hebrew boys, I'll stop you being thrown in the fire if you bow down. Well,
Not accepting the deliverance.
We're not accepting that type of deliverance.
That they may obtain better resurrection. Yeah, it could be.
I don't think God would say, you know, you can be tortured or you can live a long life in me. I don't.
Well, I looked at, and the reason why I brought it up because it made me scratch my head. Which way does this go? And that's why I threw it out there. I think your way may be very interesting. I like that.
I think God would say, here's a better option. If torture wasn't the best option, He would provide a good plan for those who trust Him. But if torture is the only way to fulfill His plan, this is the best option.
Right. Well, and that could be, and that's why I kind of brought this up because one of the things I recognize when I read some things, I don't really always have all I don't have all the answers. But I looked at it from a standpoint that they can have an opportunity to know it don't matter. You can go home because see the Hebrew boys, when they were so called, and this is why I looked at it, when they were in the fire, we would think they are being what?
Burnt.
Roasted.
Yeah.
But they had no what? No pain.
Okay.
They said when they came out, they didn't even have the smell of what? Smoke on. And so I'm looking at it from a standpoint that when you go through some of these things, like I was going to talk about how different ones were cut in half by a saw. And it was rumored that that's happened to Isaiah. He was put inside a hollow log, and they used a saw to cut him. And I kind of think, just like the Hebrew boys, Jesus appeared and just did not allow that to happen. Didn't allow the fire to burn them.
Right.
That when the saw was going through Isaiah, I kind of think that the Lord says, I'm here. And the saw's going through you, but you ain't feeling anything. Just having a saw just going right through your body, but you kind of like just there with the Lord. And the Lord just talking to you. But you ain't feeling the saw.
But you're being cut.
But you're being cut.
And just like they were in the fire because he was in there too.
He was in there with them.
The Bible said that he was in there because they said, look, isn't there one in there look like the Son of
Right.
God?
And then the other reason why I put that there, because Jesus said this. He goes, lo, I'm with you what? Always. Now, if he's with us always, looking back, that also means he was with them always, looking forward. So the fact that the Son of God was being visibly seen by those, they say, hey, didn't we throw in 3? I see 4?
4.
It wasn't that he just decided to join them. He's letting them know, I've always been here. I was always here. And I think that's why I started thinking. I said, the Lord is with us what? Always. So when we going through something on his behalf, the Lord then is saying, I'm here. Now sometimes you know it by what? By faith. But sometimes he transcends the faith and becomes your strength. And he goes, and when you think, I can't take it, he goes, you ain't gonna feel a thing. Don't worry about it. You won't feel the sore. You won't feel the fire. I'm right here. And then that's why then I'm thinking, in that moment, does he then give you the option? Now, I can bring you out of this, and I'll have you do this or whatever. Well, you can come home with me now. And I don't know the answer to that. That's why I just threw that out, which is why I don't. It could be either way. But it makes you think, right? But it also lets you know, it does bring to the understanding that the Lord Jesus is what? With you always. He said it.
I think it's all that.
This could be all that.
I think it's, it could be the way you said it,
Mm-hmm.
at whatever time that God deems it to be that way,
Mm-hmm.
because he is God.
That's right.
Or like
Selena
Selena
said.
said.
Yep.
Because
He is. That's right.
Always was.
And always will be. But this is why the word is so good, right? It's so rich. And, when you go through this, you look at things and you go, wow. But it's important that we recognize that God is our deliverer. And he says that he will bring us into a what? A better resurrection. Look at 36. And others had trials of cruel mocking and scourging, yea, moreover, of bonds and imprisonments. They were stoned. Remember Stevens?
Mm-hmm.
And what happened with Stephen when he was stoned? While he was being stoned, guess who he saw? He saw Jesus. And was Stephen going, ouch, ooh, ah, ooh, ah? Was he doing that while the stones were hitting him? No. He was still doing what? He was preaching. He goes, I see the heavens open. Now, here's a man, he's getting hit with stones. And we think these ain't pebbles. These are big stones. And while he's getting hit by stones, he going, I see the heavens open. And I see the Son of Man standing at the right hand of God. And he's seeing that. But at the same time, his body is being what? Pelted by stones, and he what? He dies. Right? They were stoned. They were sawn asunder. As I say, from a historical standpoint, they say that's what happened to Isaiah. Put inside a hollow log and cut in half. All right? And we don't have the biblical account of Isaiah. We have the biblical account of Stephen's. We have the biblical account of the Hebrew boys. But it's just historical about maybe Isaiah. We don't know. But whoever it was, we do know that somebody got sword and sunder, because it says right here in Hebrews that happened to some of the people. Were tempted, were slain with the what? With the sword. They wandered about as in sheepskins and in goatskins, right? Not having, these world's goods. Moses decided, I'm not going to have the world's treasure. I'm going to step away from the riches of Egypt. Some people didn't have the riches to step away from. They had poverty. They had difficulty. All right? Being destituted, afflicted, all right? Tormented, of whom the world was not what? Worthy. All right? So you got people that didn't have a whole lot, and they struggled, so-called, as we would say, struggled from a natural standpoint, not having these world's goods. They were destituted, afflicted, tormented, but this world was not worthy of them. And some of them just, that's just how they were. One prophet that comes to mind is John the Baptist. He was in the what? In the wilderness. And he ate what he could find. He ate wild honey and locusts. All right? Of whom this world was not worthy. They wandered in deserts and in mountains and in dens of caves of the earth, and these all having obtained a what? Good report. Through faith, received not the promise. Right? And why didn't they receive it? Because they were still looking what? Forward to it. God having provided some better thing for us. And this is what the book of Hebrews is all about. Better. God has got better things for you. Don't put your confidence in this world or in anything of this world or any of the traditions and any of the religious structures of this world or the political structures. God has better. Better things for us, that they without us should not be made perfect. All right? That they without us should not be made perfect. So if you want perfection, you can't do it yourself. You can't make yourself perfect. And oftentimes that's what we try to do. And that's what our society today is trying to do. We have a whole movement of people that are trying to turn man into this perfect being. They're going to make us so-called smarter and stronger and give us eternal life and all that other kind of stuff, which we will talk about, I'm sure, at another time. But as we finish that chapter and you look back on it, you can see how powerful faith is. That if you really have faith in God, you cannot be defeated. You can't be. Your faith will always, but then you have to take a biblical definition of victory or defeat. The Bible's definition of victory is that you know Jesus and you trust him, and that he will allow what is to come to come. If you're not to be burned up, guess what? I don't care what they do. They try to throw you in all you want. It ain't happening. But if he's going to allow you to suffer the cruelties of this world, he's still with you. Look at Stevens, stoning him, but he's like, you don't see any biblical evidence that he even feels the stones hitting him, but yet his body did what? His body died. So faith is a powerful thing. It really is, and when you have faith in God, it will transcend what the world is trying to do against you and to you. I'm going to end it with that you just have to have that confidence in the Lord. It's my evidence. It's the substance. It's what I lean on. It's what I bank on. My faith is in God. And remember, the faith is not what we worship. We worship who? Jesus. We worship Jesus. And our faith should not be in faith, which is what a lot of people just have strong faith. No. Have faith in God. Faith in Jesus. Have your faith in the Son of God. That's where your faith should be. It just shouldn't be, I got faith. Because that's another erroneous teaching that's out there. All right. We're going to stop with that. Any other comments or questions about this chapter? Or anything else? All right. So with that.